Parkview, your pet isn't just another number, but a valued member of their caring family. Visit them at pahlincoln.com today and in person just south of 14th and Pine Lake Road. Parkview Animal Hospital, your pet, our passion. For happier, healthier, furry friends.
Hi, Sean Callahan here of HuskerOnline.com, inviting you to join us here on 93.7 The Ticket every Saturday morning now. In our new time, we're on from 8 to 9 with the weekly Husker Online radio show. We'll give you the latest in recruiting. We'll talk about what's going on with both football, basketball, and we'll probably share a few stories from the inside. It's every Saturday morning right here on 93.7 The Ticket. It's the Husker Online radio show from 8 to 9 a.m.
The crack of the bat, sizzling concessions. Yeah, that's the sound of summer at Haymarket Park. It's been that way for 25 seasons. And in this city, it's not a matter of if you'll catch a game, it's how many. Safe. That's because there's always something in play for Salt Dogs fans. From saluting our troops to Friday night fireworks, your local tradition plays on. Let's show summer how Lincoln celebrates 25 seasons. Get your tickets at saltdogs.com.
Big value and big flavor meet at Wings and Rings thanks to the all-new delicious Duo Combo. This is the one you've been waiting for. Get one half-sized appetizer and 2 entrees with a side for only $19.99. Bring a friend for the best deal in town on any day of the week, during game time, or whenever the heck you want. Their made-to-order wings and chicken sandwiches are waiting for you at their 68th and O and 40th and Old Cheney locations. Stop by Wings and Rings and celebrate every day with the best meal deal in town.
You started your business to build something special. Now it's time to grow and protect it. At Pinnacle Bank, our treasury management services help you do just that. Through smarter payment technology, account administration, and fraud protection. So no matter the size of your business, you can get the most out of your financial operations. Request your free consultation at pinbank.com/consult. Pinnacle Bank, the way banking should be. Member FDIC.
Rico here with HIS Auto Care at 70th and Van Dorn, letting you know HIS is a great place to bring your vehicle for service. With superior service, bumper to bumper, we'll treat your vehicle like it's your mother's. Doesn't get any better than that. So call 402-488-8934 and HIS Auto will make you glad you did. 5% off, mention this ad, and for sure your mother will be proud you called. 402-488-8934, HIS Auto Care, 70th and Van Dorn. God bless you.
Graham Tire presents life's greatest adventures.
Okay, buddy, here we go. Just keep your eye on the ball. All right, just swing right through it. Yeah, good job. Way to go. Hey, run it out. Okay.
Great road trips start with great service. Graham Tire, your tire store next door, with 5 convenient Lincoln locations, getting you to the places that matter most.
Perch Merch is your one-stop shop for all your printing and promotional needs in Lincoln, Nebraska. They specialize in screen printing, embroidery, vehicle wraps, window wraps, print collateral, promotional products, and signage. At Perch Merch, they're committed to delivering high-quality products and exceptional customer service. Their experienced team of designers and printing professionals will work with you every step of the way to ensure that your vision is realized. Call for a quote today at 402-217-5212 or go to perchmerch.com.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com. On the internet, KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket. 93.7 The Ticket is Lincoln's home for Kansas City Royals baseball in 2026. Catch all the action as Bobby Witt Jr., Salvador Perez, Vinny Pasquantino, and a pitching rotation led by Cole Reagans try to lead the Royals back to the postseason. That's Kansas City Royals baseball all summer long. On the air in Lincoln at 93.7 The Ticket. Live from the heart of Lincoln, America, welcome to Ticket Weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome in, Ticket Weekends. Myself alongside Tristan Gomes, Nick Whyman, Tristan Gomes, holding you down here from 11 to noon. I'd say this is the halftime of the Saturday slate. Like I said, we're here holding it down here on Saturday, so a little biased on the program. But Tristan, it has been a loaded day so far. Husker Online starting at its new time, 7 a.m. So get your coffee brewing, you get your Mountain Dew, whatever gets you going in the morning. and get that going to listen to Steve Sipple, Robin Washett, Sean Callahan, them on 7 to 8. Bennerly, a new show where character matters. Really good conversation from top to bottom from 8 to 9. Business Builders in his normal spot, 9 to 10 with Matt Warden and Rebecca Pearson. Really good episode, hour-long conversation with them. And just wrapping up with Todd Euler and Steffi Layden, the latest guest on the Euler Report. 85 episodes for Todd Euler. Wow. 85. Should he bring a cake for his 100th episode?
I think that'd be a great idea. I think once you hit 100 is like you've made it as an official host at 93.7 The Ticket. I mean, I know he's been doing this for quite a while, but I feel like once you get to that 100th episode, it's like you're established.
Yeah, he's sitting out there right now, so hopefully we might have to stop by like a Hy-Vee and like get a cake and bring it in or something. I don't know. Maybe one day, Todd. Maybe one day we'll talk. But if you'd love to join the conversation, Tristan and me, Nick Whyman holding it down here till the noon hour on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Starter Heyman Jewelers text line always open throughout the remainder of the day. 402-464-5685 to be a part of what we're doing. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Allo, Channel 961 to see our beautiful faces here in the 1040 O Street studio at 93.7 The Ticket. Along with that, Tristan, a loaded day going on. We have Ray Lee Coe coming next, the Lincoln Challengers coming up. You have Lincoln Youth Football. In between there, you'll be in there. We have Chubbs. He'll be back today. And then Brandon Bolina, the Nebraska Wesleyan's soccer coach, will be here. You'll have a great conversation with him. He was on Rudy's show just a couple of weeks ago, and really good insight to everything that goes into the college level of soccer and everything else in between. So stick around throughout the day. Plenty of different conversations to have, not only here in this hour, but also throughout the rest of the afternoon here on 93.7 The Ticket. So Tristan, we're going to talk a lot of Huskers in this hour. I know a lot of people are counting down, myself included. We're under 60 days until the first kickoff of the 2026 college football season for Nebraska when they take on Ohio that Labor Day weekend. And then a couple more games going into conference play before the fourth game of the season at Michigan State and Pat Fitzgerald's squad. We're less than 50 days away from the first college football game of the season, with that one being the Dublin game in Ireland between North Carolina, Bill Belichick taking on life after Josh Hoover and TCU led by Sonny Dykes. Has it hit you yet that college football is just really kind of, coming up here in the rearview mirror?
I feel like it is really coming up, and I feel like there's so much going on right now, especially with the World Cup. And then you have Major League Baseball, which we love to talk about. But I think once August hits is when, that flip really just switches and you go, we're right there. We're right there. And not only am I extremely excited for Husker football coming up, but I think just college football in general. I think it's my probably favorite time of the year outside of March Madness. But when it's college football season, it seems like every Saturday is just heaven on earth. We're here at the radio and we get the opportunity to speak about, Nebraska football, but then every single team in the country. And then we get done here and we get to go watch football. And so it's just the greatest time, I think, of the year. And there's so much time that goes into these coaches' lives and these players' lives. And so it's exciting for them to get the opportunity to finally, put out that content that they've been working all year for.
And I don't know, there's just something about the Saturdays in the fall. Like, yes, it feels like this outside the first couple games of the season. Once you get into that conference slate, when there's ACC games, the SEC, the Big Ten, and the Big 12, et cetera, in the heat of their conference, when you wake up on those Saturday mornings and you feel the crisp fall air, the leaves start kind of falling off the trees, I can the scent, the smell, you can everything is just, it just smells like college football. I don't know how to describe it, because if I walk out today here, walking in here at 7 a.m., it's all right. It's a summer day. Baseball's in the heat of their season. All-Star breaks come up. But, 4 months from now, when I'm walking in here on a Saturday morning, you can just feel the energy of college football. I don't know how to describe it, Tristan, but you know what I'm talking about. I assume a lot of our viewers do as well.
And the best thing, too, is being here right at 93.7 The Ticket on O Street is we see just Husker Red walking by every single Saturday. Fans, whether they're heading to a tailgate, heading to a bar, or heading to Memorial Stadium, you can just see the energy and the pride from the Husker faithful. I think that's my favorite thing about, college football is being here in Lincoln on a Saturday and just seeing all of the fans and fans stopping by the mill, coming in, grabbing a coffee, grabbing a drink, whatever it may be, and just getting excited for Husker football. So it's funny because growing up, I feel like every kid dreamed of, playing for Nebraska or just playing college football. And you get that feeling where you wake up on a Saturday and you can feel it in the air and there's an excitement and everyone knows what time Nebraska plays, who they play. They know every single big game that's going on around the country, what time those games are. And so it gives you something to look forward to every single Saturday when you wake up.
So we're going to talk a lot about Nebraska's football because the 2026 season's on the horizon. We're going to talk about some key storylines to watch, a couple key players and some key games. Every game is key on your 12-game slate, but some on Nebraska's schedule really stand out to me because there is an expectation, Tristan. We talked about how last season ended with the November slump, the loss to Penn State, the Black Friday loss at home at Memorial Stadium to Iowa, and then the bowl game to Devin Dampier and that Utah youth squad who ended up having a couple of NFL talents on that offensive line. They're another team. Devin Dampier is a top quarterback to watch throughout the entire preseason leading up to the college football season. So we'll talk a lot about that one. Second segment, NBA Summer League's going on. Rink Mast had a pretty good game, to say the least, in his Summer League debut. We'll talk about the 4 individuals who are playing there right now across 4 of the different franchises in the Las Vegas NBA Summer League. And we'll cap off the show. A couple cool things. UFC 329 tonight. That's everybody's on their docket if you're a big UFC fan or not. But Conor McGregor's back after his hiatus from the sport alongside the Lincoln Challenger, which will lead right into Ray Ali Co's show as well. So if you want to be a part of the conversation at all, 402-464-565. Tristan, if I had to ask you right now, there is the expectation from Nebraska football. There always is. There always will be. What is kind of the number one thing on your mind going into this season? The new quarterback with Anthony Calandria and the guys behind him, new defensive coordinator, new offensive line coach. What do you think is the number one storyline to watch as fall camp prepares, as media day comes up as well at the end of the month?
Yeah, I think a lot of Husker fans, you look at the schedule and you see that you have some of the top teams in the Big Ten on there. Obviously, you have Indiana, who just won a national championship. You're at Oregon. You got Ohio State. Like, you have some really good teams that you're going to have to take on this season. But I think my biggest thought when it goes into this season and how good is this Nebraska football team going to be is it come down to those games in the Big Ten that it seems like Nebraska is evenly matched or, maybe even a little better than. I think of those games against Michigan State, Maryland, those ones where you go, this Husker team, if they want to, continue on this trajectory where they're getting better every single season, you have to take care of business in those games. And so I know many fans, and we've, been on the streak of not being able to beat a ranked opponent, and there's definitely going to be some ranked opponents on there. But in the meantime, what do you do against those teams that, you're kind of in the same boat in? I think back to Minnesota last season, that was the game that I think a lot of Husker fans said, we're going to go up to Minnesota, we're going to take care of business. And it was the exact opposite. Mm-hmm. Minnesota just kind of beat Nebraska's teeth in. And I think those are the games that really solidify a season, because you can talk about, is Nebraska going to beat Michigan? Is Nebraska finally going to get Iowa this year? Or, you go to Penn State, could that be a really big win? And none of those, happened. But then you think of like the bad losses, like against a Minnesota team. So I think going into this season is, if you really want to establish that you are on an uphill trajectory, I don't expect them to, beat Oregon in Autzen Stadium. Maybe that happens. That would be unbelievable. But I think it's going to be taking care of the business against those teams that are also in the middle of the pack of the Big Ten.
And I find that I'll build off that, Tristan. You talk about beating those teams like a Michigan State, which is going to be a very different led Michigan State team. Michigan State, since Mel Tucker leaves, and then they end up Jonathan Smith's out the door. Now you have Pat Fitzgerald there, Pat Fitzgerald, he's lost his fair share of games to Nebraska, but he's also worked with a lot less there at Northwestern and has been able to get the best of Nebraska, whether it's a come-from-behind win, whether it's winning overseas in Ireland. He's been able to get the most out of the programs he's had. Yes, Michigan State is coming off some seasons they'd like to put behind them, but Pat Fitzgerald brings kind of a spark to a team that's had guys like Le'Veon Bell, Kirk Cousins, et cetera, and have been nationally ranked year after year after year, just 10 plus years ago. So handling business there, I think, is very interesting. And then Maryland, Mike Loxley's had a long tenure there since he coming over as a longtime assistant in the college football ranks. Malik Washington has his feet under him now. He was a freshman quarterback, and against Nebraska, he gave Nebraska a little bit of fits in that game, which came down to the wire there at College Park, Maryland. He has another year of development. A lot of people are high on Malik Washington at entering his sophomore campaign with the Terrapins. And I think building off those games, if Nebraska is able to handle business in those games, that Michigan State game and that Maryland game, right to begin Big Ten play, I'm not saying handle business as in, they win 45-7. You just win the games. A win's a win at the end of the day. It's hard to win in this sport. You just stack wins with the non-con and those two right off the bat. Then you have momentum going into playing an Indiana team, which is going to be a lot of talk throughout this entire college football season due to being the defending national champions of the sport. A little bit of a different team this year. Josh Hoover's now their quarterback, as I mentioned him at the top of the show, coming over from TCU. But if you're able to grasp some momentum, get some momentum and say, hey, look, we can beat these teams and the sky's the limit for us. And you come in winning those games against the teams who are on your level or below, or maybe a little bit above. We don't know at the end of the day until the season starts. you got momentum going into that stretch of Indiana, and then you go to Oregon, and then a team like Washington, who has DeMond Williams, a dynamic quarterback. There's a little question about what that's going to be because he entered the transfer portal in a sense, but I'm assuming we'll hear more about media day about him kind of burying the hatchet and getting that respect back from his teammates. But all in all, if you're able to capture momentum early in the season, I think it goes a long way toward that latter half of the season where Nebraska has taken some slumps down the stretch, especially in November.
Yeah, I think early in the season, it's going to be very important to take care of business and also just settle in a little bit. You don't have much time in a college football season to really get comfortable. But if you're Nebraska, you're taking on Ohio, Bowling Green, and then North Dakota. I think those are games where you want to see, Anthony Calandria. We'll get into the players. You want to see Anthony Calandria start to settle in. And I think a lot of fans want to see his playmaking ability. But most importantly, I think they want to see his, decision making. And is he making the right decisions? Is he forcing the ball a little too much? But then once you get into Big Ten play, like you said, is you're taking on a brand new Michigan State team. You're taking on a Maryland team at home who, you got pushed to the brink last year against them up in College Park, and then you get the defending national champs. You get Oregon at Oregon. And then, like you said, Washington is another one of those games where I say if you want to establish yourself as the top half of that Big Ten, Washington's the team you got to beat. Same thing with Illinois. And so I think just going throughout the season is, one, if a game doesn't go your way, if you take on Indiana and, it's what we saw, up in Bloomington a few years ago, then how is Nebraska going to respond against Oregon? And if you head to Oregon and that doesn't go well, how do you respond at home against Washington? I think in college athletics, it's so important to figure out, when you kind of get punched in the teeth is how do you bounce back? But in the game of college football, where there's less and less games than there is in, college basketball, college baseball, it's extremely important to, go through some adversity and then respond to it. And so for Nebraska, I think this season, it's going to really be a test because I know for so many years, and I've talked to a few players who played under Scott Frost, and they said, yeah, they feel like they went into the beginning of the season feeling extremely confident and saying, yeah, we're going to go win. We're going to make the Big Ten championship. We're going to do all this. And it didn't happen. And then it just slowly went downhill. And I think back to last year after that USC game, it seemed like it was kind of the same thing is, you take on UCLA, but after that, you take on a Penn State team. That does not go your way. And then it seemed like there was very little confidence going in against Iowa. And I think that falls a lot on the coaching staff of, just getting guys ready and, you care, but you don't that happened in the past. We lost last Saturday. What are we going to do this Saturday? So I think Nebraska throughout this tough schedule, it's going to be really important to see how they respond each and every week, whether it's a win or loss.
Exactly. There's the bumps in the road at every season. It's very hard to go undefeated, especially in the sport. And we've seen teams take bumps in the road. I mean, go back to Notre Dame losing to Northern Illinois at the beginning of the season way early. They ended up making a run in the college football playoff. They didn't let that first game define them because when they lose that first true test game at home to a non-Power 4 school, they were kind of, like, oh, look at these guys. Notre Dame doesn't play anybody. They lost that one game to a team from the MAC. And guess what they did? They proved everybody wrong. They won out and ended up making a run in that college football playoff at the end of the day. So, losing early, it stinks. But, if Nebraska loses one of those first two Big Ten games, you move forward. And is the road tough? Yes, we talked about it as a whole. I also had the dynamic. You mentioned Anthony Calandria, and I think he's a huge dynamic to this entire season. Yes, Nebraska's new look offense with Dylan Raiola out now, going up to Oregon. You have Anthony Calandria coming over from UNLV, and I look at his track record so far. Goes to Virginia, plays there, does some stuff as a freshman, has some freshman records there with the Cavaliers' his football program. Then, turnover heavy. He was turnover prone. He mentioned it in one of his first press conferences in front of the Nebraska media saying, yeah, I had a turnover issue. Leaves Virginia, ends up going to another program in UNLV, which at the time, UNLV, not the biggest powerhouse in football, but they have Dan Mullen now coaching them. Dan Mullen used to coach Florida, Mississippi State in between, went to the ESPN. He was in the booth for a bit. On a lot of those Thursday night football games on their network, goes back into coaching, finds his way back in and picks up Anthony Calandria there. And Dan Mullen's got a really good track record with quarterbacks. You had Tim Tebow there at Florida and a couple other names. He had Dak Prescott at Mississippi State. Now, recapturing, trying to catch lightning in a bottle again with Anthony Calandria. You have the intangibles. You have the veteranship there with Anthony Calandria as well. I'm curious to see that dynamic of where Calandria has grown as a player, not just at Virginia, not just at UNLV, but now back to the Power 4 level at the University of Nebraska.
Yeah, I think it's going to be extremely important, especially on Dana Holgerson's shoulders, is you have a quarterback that is a playmaker, a quarterback that probably fits Dana's schemes and just, offense a little bit more of a guy that he likes having a mobile quarterback. He's a little bit more versatile. You can incorporate the quarterback run, but also incorporate some rollouts or, work a little bit more on just the scrambling ability and getting guys open when a play breaks down just a little bit. So I think it's going to be important as much as we talk about, Anthony Calandria's decision-making is I think the coaching staff has to put him in really good positions where he can use his athleticism, but it doesn't seem like everything is just improvised and it's just him going on the fly. I think if you want to, air the ball out downfield, have good schemes. I am one of the biggest fans of Mike Leach and what he did at Washington State and just the schemes that he put together and how guys were throwing for 500 yards a game. Is that going to happen in the Big Ten? Is that going to happen in Nebraska? Absolutely not. But it's important to put your quarterback in positions where they can be successful. And as much as you want to use their athleticism, is they have their reads. They have their progressions. It's not, I see one progression, breaks down, I'm going to scramble and try to make something happen. It's no, we're going to go here and we're going to go left to right and we're going to figure out, who's open, what's the read, whatever it may be. So I think it's going to be important for the coaching staff to utilize his athleticism, and allow him to, make some special plays, but also put him in good positions to make plays.
I love how you mentioned Mike Leach there. The Connor Hollidays, the Luke Falks of the world, the Gardner Minshew's,
Anthony Gordon.
Those guys, yes, Anthony Gordon those guys were fun quarterbacks. All four of them, because in that system, they fit that need and everything that that Pac-12 era needed for that Mike Leach offense. Were they contending for a national title? No, but they knew what was expected out of your quarterback, and he knew how to get the most out of, 4 or 5 guys. We mentioned 4 guys right there. Those guys came right after one another from all the way from the early 2010s all the way until Mike Leach's era was done there at Washington State. I'm not saying Nebraska has to be Washington State, but you see what the expectation was at quarterback and what you had to do. I also lean on this. Geep Wade's the new offensive line coach. It goes both ways. It's a two-way highway here with Nebraska's offense because you have a full new offensive line. You have Justin Evans to anchor off of. You have guys like Brendan Black coming in, Tree Babalade, just to name a couple. But to add on to the quarterback, Anthony Calandria doesn't have time to, progress, go through his progressions, also keeping him upright in the pocket, not getting hit every play. It goes both ways. I think that offensive line is going to be critical because we saw last year Nebraska's offensive line struggled at times. You mentioned the Minnesota game. That game was one that I think sits in, Husker fans' nightmares to this day. That Friday night was kind of a nightmare situation. And now you have that new offensive line, revamped offensive line, adding a couple of more pieces. It goes both ways, not only with them, but also Anthony Calandria.
Yeah, 100%. And I think last year, a lot of people had a lot of question marks about the offensive line due to how many, sacks were allowed. And then there was also the question of, was Dylan Raiola's, immobility a reason for a lot of those sacks? Could some of those be avoided? But when you get down to it, if you're Geep Wade, he doesn't even want his quarterback to have to try to avoid sacks. He wants his offensive line to do the job that's necessary. And yeah, I think it's going to be important too for Anthony Calandria's understanding if this offensive line is doing their job, don't try to be a hero. Don't think you need to escape the pocket. Step up in the pocket maybe a little bit, but it's going to be important to, trust this offensive line. And I think Geep Wade is a guy that knows he's coming into a situation that really struggled. And I think, for the guys that are returning, he's letting them know we got to be a lot better. We got to protect our quarterback. That's our number one job. And yeah, I think it's going to be an important balance of using Anthony Calandria's strengths of, him outside of the pocket, but also how can this offensive line keep him in the pocket? And how can this offensive line, make an impact? The line of scrimmage is where games are won and lost. And, for Nebraska, I think they lost a lot of games. They turned into a one-dimensional offense and a lot of games last year because it was, we can run block a little bit and Emmett Johnson's going to make some stellar plays. But when we get into a 3rd and long situation, it seemed like they were almost doomed. And so I think Geep Wade's going to do a really good job, hopefully, of just instilling some confidence these guys and letting them know if we want to be a really good football team, we have to protect our quarterback and we have to win the line of scrimmage.
And, Geep Wade, look at the progression he had in the 3 years he was there at the Yellow Jackets with Georgia Tech. So in his first year, they led the ACC and were ranked 12th nationally in rushing offense, averaged a little bit over 200 yards per game on the ground. After that, 2024, they finished 2nd in the ACC conference total rushing, and then they continued that efficiency in 2025. Had a stagnant, kind of a very well put together run. They were 9th nationally, 30 rushing touchdowns last year for that Georgia Tech crew, quarterbacks, running backs, everybody else in between. Passing, sacks allowed. Fewest sacks allowed for 3 consecutive seasons, 2023, 2024, and 2025. Last year, a brick wall. They only allowed 9 total sacks across 354 dropbacks, which finished 5th in the nation in fewest sacks allowed. This is Haynes King back there. Jamal Hayes was also the running back at that time. That's why you see those numbers. Haynes King was I think that's what you're going to try to see potentially in Anthony Clandry. Yes, it's a different offense what they were running at Georgia Tech compared to what Daniel Holgerson's going to do. But if you have a model your game after a guy like Haynes King, who was very successful in the ACC conference, I'm curious if that is the way, Nebraska is going to look. We don't know exactly what that offense is like. There's a lot of new things. Isaiah Mosey, running back, Jamal Rule potentially playing a role, different wide receivers. Ja'Cory Barney going to be anchored down as not only a huge wide receiver asset, but just being a leadership. Luke Lindenmeyer. So many different names who are going to be taking on bigger roles. And I think guys or those who are in bigger roles are going to have to be a leader at the end of the day. I think that all kind of goes in hand with what Georgia Tech was establishing up front and their offensive scheme compared to what Nebraska is doing.
Yeah, and I think from an offensive line standpoint, it's so easy to gain momentum and lose momentum. You think of an offensive line that drives down the field, whether we're running it or throwing it, is just drives down the field, and then the offensive line is kind of just bullying that defensive line all the way down the field. That gives your team so much momentum. And last year you saw just a lack of momentum on Nebraska's sideline every time there was a sack. And I mean, you just mentioned it, 9 sacks given up by that Georgia Tech offensive line last season. Nebraska gave up 9 sacks in multiple games last season. So I think Jeep Wade is coming from a really good place. And Haynes King was a guy that was kind of a bulldozer, had a lot of designed runs, probably had way too many hits to the head.
Yes.
But I think it's kind of in a similar position, is where you have a quarterback that can run the ball and, can make some things happen with his feet, but also, knew how to just, have a high football IQ and make plays happen on his own. So if you have an offensive line that is coming from, a scheme of Jeep Wade, where he knows, this is how we're going to run the ball, this is how we're going to protect a quarterback, it gives your team a lot of confidence. And you mentioned some of those just skill position players. Ja'Cory Barney was one of those guys that I think you're going to have to get the ball a lot more this season. I mean, he had more receptions his freshman year than he did this past season. And he also had 3 rushing touchdowns as a freshman, none last year. And so I think it's going to be important is when you have a guy that might be the fastest on the field, get him the ball any way you can. And I think that's up to Dana Holgerson, but then also up to Jeep Wade for, giving Anthony Clandry time to get the ball to Ja'Cory Barney to make some plays.
And with Haynes King, I'm not saying Anthony Clandry should be playing like Haynes King. Like, they both kind of have that moxie. I think is the way to describe Haynes King. Will he be an NFL caliber quarterback? I don't know. Haynes King right now doesn't look like it, but he had that caliber, moxie, and everything in between the intangibles to help a Georgia Tech program continue to win big games and compete at a high level against teams who probably are greater than them at the end of the day. And to cap off this segment, Tristan, we'll just quickly go over the defense. That I think is another storyline that's kind of taking a back seat just due to the offense is the big storyline. People love to talk about the quarterback, the line, and everything with the transfer portal that's transpired. But the defense, I think, is going to be a vital part. We talk about the games, which ones could be interesting for Nebraska, which ones are going to be circled on your calendar that are vital for success for this 2026 campaign. But I think it all starts with Rob Orich and what he has in play, where he's gone. He's gone from different places like Idaho, et cetera. Most recently in San Diego State. He has some of those guys, Owen Chambliss, Dwayne McDougall, who are building off of it from when they were time the Aztecs program. Now I'm curious where that applies going into the Big Ten Conference, along with those guys, plus the pieces that he has now at his disposal here at Nebraska.
I mean, yeah, I think it goes both ways. As we talked about, dominating the line of scrimmage on the offensive side. Last year, I don't think Nebraska did a great job of dominating it on the defensive side. You saw, how teams kind of could run all over this Nebraska defense, as well as quite a few missed tackles. And so I think Rob Orich has an opportunity to make a huge turnaround, which I think if you're a coach, this is the perfect opportunity you want to walk into. You don't want to go to a place where, the defensive coordinator left because, he was one of the best in the business and now you have to fill those shoes. I think as a coach, I would rather go somewhere where it's a team that really struggled. And if I come in and, I can instill confidence in these players and, I can build a defense up, I look like I'm the man. And not that it has to be an ego thing, but I think Rob Ulrich has an opportunity to, really turn around this defense. And that's exactly what Nebraska needs going into this run-heavy Big Ten, and this Big Ten where the line of scrimmage means absolutely everything. And so I think it's going to be important for this defense to, hone in on just that line, but also, when a guy does get, past that, first level, do we have linebackers? Do we have DBs that, can make a tackle when Nebraska really needs it?
Less than 60 days until Nebraska kicks off at Memorial Stadium against Ohio. Less than 50 days until the first college football game is here, week 0. Remember, a couple of those games will be on Westwood One. You'll be able to hear them right here over the dial at 93.7 The Ticket. Have heard a couple of the games that we're going to be able to get. I think USC in their week 0 game against San Jose State's one of them, but be sure to check that out as it goes on. Well, Nebraska sports, we're waiting for football season. We're counting down the days until college football's here, but you can watch some Huskers right now in action in the heart of Las Vegas. 4 former Huskers are playing for 4 different franchises in the NBA Summer League right now. Tipped off Thursday night with the AJ DeBonsa versus Darren Peterson game. That was pretty electric to see both those guys represent the Wizards and the Jazz. But also Rink Mast got a post-game interview after the game as well. We'll talk more about his performance and the 3 other Huskers who are going head-to-head in this year's 2026 edition of the NBA Summer League. So we'll be right back. Nick Whyman, Tristan Gomes hanging out with you till the top of the hour before you send it over to Ray Lee Co. at First Serve Live here on 93.7 The Ticket.
Are you ready for a new opportunity? Check out Sandhills Global. Join a dynamic team where your skills are valued and your career can soar. We offer full-time positions with a 4.5-day work week, competitive pay, excellent benefits, and a positive work environment. From IT and marketing to sales and finance, we're looking for talented individuals just like you. Apply today at sandhills.jobs and take the first step towards an exciting future. That's sandhills.jobs. Don't wait, apply now.
What if your bank had people who care about the places we call home?
That's what Union Bank does. We encourage this culture of giving back.
I really enjoy working with People City Mission,
the United Way campaign,
Habitat for Humanity, Big Brothers Big Sisters. Everyone's in to help make that community stronger. To be part of all of this that's going on is pretty remarkable.
At UBT, your money has people with a passion for serving. Union Bank and Trust. Member FDIC.
Put lawn irrigation on automatic. Think Judson Irrigation for worry-free service to Lincoln homeowners and business community. Judson Irrigation will turn on your sprinkler system in the spring, repair or redesign as needed, and turn it off in the fall. For service to orphan sprinklers, remember Judson Irrigation. They'll never forget you.
Call the Judson Irrigation Orphanage 402-420-6277 or judsonirrigation.com.
When something breaks, you want someone you can trust to fix it right. Empire Repair is now open in Waverly and ready to serve our community with reliable auto repair and maintenance. From routine service to bigger repairs, our team is here to keep you on the road. Stop by Empire Repair in Waverly or call 402-786-2224 to schedule your service today. Empire Repair, proud to serve Waverly.
At Schwezo Construction, safety isn't just a policy, it's a promise. Build with us. Work safe, go home proud. We're hiring skilled craftsmen, laborers, concrete workers, and steel erectors who value quality work and a team that has your back, on and off the job site. If you're ready to be part of a company where your safety and success come first, visit Schwezo.com. That's SCHWISOW.com and apply today. Schwezo Construction, 40 years strong and still building the future.
Ever look at your house and think, ouch, it's stuck in the past? Or realize that your kitchen needs a new everything? Like thousands of homeowners, you can simply call SprayNet Lincoln. Their patented spray system and paint delivers a flawless factory finish. No mess, done in a day, and cost-effective. It looks just like new, including your vinyl. And it's all backed by their 15-year no-peel warranty. SprayNet Lincoln, custom chemistry and smarter painting. Google SprayNet Lincoln or call them now at 402-383-3336 or email ching@spray-net.com.
Hey there, this is Paul Scheel, owner of High Electric. I want to thank our friends and loyal customers and introduce High Electric to those looking for a new electrician. We've been serving the Lincoln and Omaha area for over 30 years, from design to install, upgrades, and repair. If you are a homeowner or a small business needing some electrical work, call us at 402-466-6606 or check us out at hyelectric.com. We look forward to hearing from you.
Anderson Ford in Lincoln has 2 convenient locations, which means 2 times the customer service, 2 times the inventory, and 2 times the ability to get you in the car of your dreams. Whether you visit us on the north side or the south side, you'll find more selection and a team that's always on your side. When you're looking for a better way to buy your next Ford, visit Anderson Ford in Lincoln, where exceptional service meets unbeatable selection.
New from Arbor Axe House comes Benny's Battle Barge, the mobile axe throwing adventure. Perfect for festivals, parties, fundraisers, and celebrations. Charter the barge at arbораxe.com or call Arbor Axe House at 402-802-9696. Arbor Axe House at the corner of N Street and Antelope Valley.
Bauer Underground has been serving local contractors and utility contractors all across the state since 1997. When you see the black and white trucks, you know that the best workers in the business have arrived. Bauer is currently looking for equipment operators, laborers, diesel mechanics, and aerial linemen. Join the brotherhood built upon hard work, authentic people, and a pedigree of success. They're offering top-notch benefits, matching 401k, and a $600 per year clothing allowance. Bauer Underground, a family-friendly company with room for advancement.
Big box stores are tempting for buying equipment for your high schooler in sports or for yourself in your sports leisures. But buying new is awfully expensive. Why not go somewhere with new and used options? Play It Again Sports has quality, slightly to gently used equipment, and 50% of their inventory is actually new equipment. It's more than baseball, softball, and golf. They also have equipment for disc golf, fitness, hockey, and more. Plus, they're always buying products. Bring your gear that you're done with and get trade money on the spot. Play It Again Sports at 48th and Vine. Lincoln is full of great golf courses in a state that is getting national recognition for exceptional golf. Friend Country Club is worth the drive, just 40 minutes from Lincoln and home to one of the state's most respected 9-hole courses. Enjoy their restaurant with popular items like a 14-ounce ribeye, 10-ounce sirloin, or chicken fried steak. Open Thursday through Saturday from 5:30 to 10 p.m. Expand your horizons with a trip to Friend Country Club, just 40 minutes southeast of Lincoln. It's worth a visit.
93.7 The Ticket is Lincoln's home for Kansas City Royals baseball in 2026. Catch all the action as Bobby Witt Jr., Salvador Perez, Vinny Pasquantino, and a pitching rotation led by Cole Reagans try to lead the Royals back to the postseason. That's Kansas City Royals baseball all summer long. On the air in Lincoln at 93.7 The Ticket. Back to The Ticket weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back. As Tristan fixes his hair here, I just saw him clearly, but don't worry, we've all been caught about that here on stream. But 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Nick Whyman and Tristan Gomes hanging out with you for another half hour before we turn it over to First Serve Live with Ray Lee Coe as the ATP Challenger. Lincoln coming up. We'll probably talk a lot about that and everything else in between with Ray Lee Coe. So if you'll enjoy the conversation, 402-464-5685. Talk a lot of basketball. Basketball season never ends. We saw that with the news with the Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero stuff. Some off-the-court drama. Well, I guess they were on a court when that happened, but we'll leave it at that as the investigation goes on with all that. Just crazy. Like the NBA, before we get into the NBA Summer League, Tristan, the NBA offseason might be just as entertaining as the season. I talked about the other night saying how the NFL calendar it's a constant cycle of news, whether it's the offseason, the draft, the camps, all the way into the preseason, season, Super Bowl, and rinse and repeat. The NBA is kind of on that dial where it's like finals ends, draft, summer league, free agency, offseason drama, and then you lead into the camp and then regular season, play-in tournament, everything in between, and then it's a constant cycle. I think the NBA is up there with the NFL for doing just the storylines that progress even when they're not even in regular season play.
Yeah, I think it's a really good balance too, because you just get the, Knicks winning the championship, and then you get a few weeks off, and then you hear LeBron's not returning to the Lakers, and then you see Jaylen Brown to the 76ers, Paul George to the Celtics. You see all of these, you see Giannis leaving Milwaukee. I mean, all of these random different things. Did you see the Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero got into a physical altercation? Did you see that?
That's what I was just hinting at.
Oh, I know. Yeah, it's so crazy that
at least you didn't mention the Kawhi Leonard saga, because that's still going on.
I know. Yeah, I know. I mean, and there's just so much crazy things that go on even after the season ends, and then it kind of gets you excited. And then once kind of November comes around and you're ready for the NBA season to get going, you're seeing guys on different teams. You almost realize like, wow, this is weird to see Jaylen Brown not on the Celtics, or LeBron is going to be playing somewhere else. So I think it's just so cool that we get so many just interesting things to talk about, even when the season just wrapped up.
And with that, I think the same goes for college basketball with the NBA Summer League. You get to see guys who you saw on a consistent basis playing for their respective programs and everything in between. You get that with Nebraska. 4 names playing in the NBA Summer League this year. 2 of them who have played a couple years ago, and then 2 who just recently played in the historic 2025-2026 season for the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Josiah Alec is on the Charlotte Hornets one. He spent last season in the G League affiliate, the Greensboro Swarm. Bryce Williams is on the Pistons. He was obviously a huge part of Nebraska winning that college basketball crown, being a prolific scorer for the Huskers. He's in his second summer league stint with Detroit. He spent the last season with the Motor City Cruise in the G League, their affiliate with the Detroit Pistons. You have Sam Hoiberg, who played last night with the Phoenix Suns, making his professional debut following a huge, the story he had developing at Nebraska under his father, Fred Hoiberg. And then you had Rink Mast, who played yesterday in the first game of the day in the Thomas and Mack Center there for the Pacers as they held off the Cavaliers 99-93. But going to Rink Mast, he started in this game, 32 minutes, 16 points, shot 50% from the floor, only made 1 3, but he also hauled in 11 rebounds, a double-double in his summer league debut. A guy who wasn't drafted, he was Exhibit 10 contract, made a name for himself right off the bat. I know it's just summer league, but there's each team's guaranteed 4 games at most. But to have that kind of performance is quite the sight to see as a Husker fan.
Yeah, I think it's huge to see and super exciting to see Rink have, success, especially after this past season where, he had his downs throughout the season. But I think everyone knew deep down that he is, one of the best players on the floor at all times. And I think the summer league, just watching a few games, it's tough because you have so many different guys that are trying to make a roster spot. They're trying to make a name for themselves. And so it almost seems like I was just talking with some friends yesterday watching the summer league is, college basketball almost looks like it's a better game, probably because they practice together a lot more, because they have set plays and it's not just we're doing pick and roll here and then we're going to see what happens. But I think Rink did a really good job of, being a, facilitator, also got 3 assists, but you can just see that he is a guy that's, was okay having the ball in his hands. He's a bigger dude that, can only went 1 for 6 from 3, but, he can knock down some threes. And in an NBA summer league game where he's, tied for leading scorer on his team, I think it's huge to see, and especially in his debut.
Yeah, and just to see that, I mean, it's, like you said, summer league play is not the prettiest. It's guys who are trying to make a name for themselves across, trying to make an NBA roster, but 16 points, 11 rebounds, and seeing him play alongside guys like Braden Smith from Purdue, guys who were going to battle. I mean, that was the Big Ten tournament matchup between Nebraska and Purdue, and now seeing them play alongside, trying to chase a dream, I think is what makes the summer league so special. Yes, it's a little sloppier play, guys trying to put on a show, try to capture, the scouts and everybody into it, because some of these guys play a summer league team, but they get picked up by another team or another league per se. But it's very interesting, like you said, the dynamic of styles that you see in this summer league. And I think that's what makes it so interesting, because if Rink Mast has a performance like he did the last time out, still got 3 more games. He has performance like that. I think, the Pacers or potentially another team could be very interested in what he brings to the table for a franchise.
Yeah, 100%. And we've talked about it, and it might be a little bit of a stretch, but he's almost just like a mini Jokic. He's a bigger guy that, you can put him, outside on the perimeter, you can put him inside in the post. And, the NBA is, more physical, and there's a lot bigger of a height difference than the college game. But I think Rink is a guy that you can, possibly put in off the bench, and he can come in and give you solid minutes, and he can, guard a power forward and get physical with them. And then also on the offensive end he's probably a guy that in the NBA they might forget about a little bit. And he has, kind of that European bag where he's going to play a little bit of a slower game, but he's going to find a way to, find defenders' weaknesses and get buckets. So I think seeing his performance yesterday was just a glimpse into what he can do. And being a guy that grew up playing overseas, I think you see this very often, is when the transition from college basketball to, the NBA and it's just summer league, but, the transition there doesn't seem as drastic when you see guys that have played overseas in Europe and they've played against professional basketball players already. And I think Rink is a good example of the game didn't get too quick on him. And in a lot of these summer league games, I've seen players where it seems like they're trying to do way too much and it's just not working for them.
And the summer league is so interesting. Yes, you have your first round picks. We talked about AJ DeBonsa playing for the Wizards against Darren Peterson, the Utah Jazz, how big of a deal that was, and those two going head to head. And both guys, 27 for DeBonsa, 24 for Darren Peterson. Darren Peterson getting some MVP chance in Salt Lake City, one in front of the hometown crowd there in Utah just about a week ago. I think the summer league is just so interesting because that dynamic of, yes, you have the guys who are the first round picks, the lottery picks, who are going to make a roster spot. You have your late first round picks, the second round guys who are trying to make a rotational spot and showcase what they have. Then you have the guys like we haven't talked about yet, Sam Hoiberg, a guy who played larger than life during his collegiate day at Nebraska. The storyline from coach's kid to walk on to putting on scholarship to starting in the lineup and helping Nebraska put together a season that Fans still talk about this day. We're talking about to this day right now here in July 11th. He didn't score any points, didn't take any shots. 9 minutes played last night in the 81-79 win for the Phoenix Suns in the late game of the NBA Summer League. However, he had 4 rebounds, 2 of those being offensive rebounds. I like I said, he's not going to stuff the stat sheet, but 2 offensive rebounds for a guy who's, like you said, NBA play. It's a little larger, a little bigger. He's still getting rebounds despite that at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's super impressive, and it feels like his game has not changed whatsoever. Getting into, playing in the NBA, playing in the Summer League, is you could possibly expect him to try to take more shots, but I think he's a guy that's the reason Nebraska was so good. Is because he understood his role, and his role is he's going to hustle more than anyone on the entire floor, and he's going to be just a nuisance on defense, and he's going to get rebounds. He's the smallest guy on the court most likely, and he's still going to find a way to get rebounds over 7-footers, which is always extremely impressive. And, we talk about it all the time, is it seemed like after every time, Nebraska played someone this past season, the opposing coach had to say that guy played harder than anyone on our team has all season long, and that guy hustled more, and he's the scrappiest on defense. And, that might be something that might be tough. I want to hear your thoughts on just the transition to the NBA of a guy like Sam Hoiberg, who is extremely scrappy on defense, but when it's just such a scoring heavy and offensive game, is you have the 3-and-D guys, but Sam Hoiberg's not really a sharp 3-point shooter, or he wasn't at Nebraska. How can he possibly fit a role in the NBA where he's primarily just on there for defense and trying to slow down some of the best point guards in the game?
And there is a role for that in the NBA. You don't have to score 20 points a game to be an NBA player. Yes, those guys get a lot of the conversations for what they do because you're an all-star caliber player, and those guys do everything well. Each team needs to know your role. If you just had guys who are just scorers and didn't play much defense, and your team would be very interesting from top to bottom. That doesn't win you a championship. Like, look at the New York Knicks. They had a guy like Jose Alvarado, scrappy guy, can score when he can, but isn't going to, be the star of the show each and every night. Look at like a guy like Colin Gillespie. He's a smaller guard. He's made his way, played for the Phoenix Suns as well. Ironically, look what he was able to do. I'm trying to think of a couple of their names, like T.J. McConnell. A couple of years ago on the Pacers' rise, was he a guy who was going to lead the Pacers? He did a little bit in some of those games, but people didn't expect him to. They expected the Tyrese Halliburtons of the world, the Pascal Siakams, and everybody else in between. I can go back to even, I'm trying to think of some other names off the top of my mind, some scrappy guards in the NBA who have filled that role, like Matthew Dellavedova. Matthew Dellavedova knew his role in Cleveland and helped them in around LeBron and everything like that in between. Those kind of guys are needed in the NBA. They're needed to help you and put everything around you at the end of the day and help you. Bill and Bennett chiming in says this. I'm curious about this point, Tristan. I'll ask you this. Bill and Bennett says the Summer League is more fun to watch than the actual regular season, if you ask me. These guys are just trying to make a team. The flopping in the NBA regular season is just too much for him to watch. I think I get it, like the basketball purist, because you're watching basically guys who haven't practiced a lot, like we talked about in this segment, where guys like you're seeing a guy like Braden Smith, who's a fantastic college point guard for Purdue, teaming up with Rink Mast. Saying that 7 months ago, people have looked at like, what are you talking about? They're playing together, trying to fill the void, trying to make a roster. Yes, and the guys are just trying to put on a show. I see the point there, but I think the NBA regular season, the star power, I think the Summer League sometimes misses that, and I think that's the main difference between them. I'm not saying the Summer League's bad. I'm just saying there is that star power in the NBA season, but that's why we talked about at the beginning of the segment. The NBA offseason is such a star studded thing, an entertainment thing with all the trades, all the rumors, everything in between. Where LeBron's going, that's off the court, and I think that blends in really nicely with what's going on the court in the Summer League.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Bill and Bennett just talking about how exciting it is to watch the Summer League, because every single minute that these guys are on the floor is they're giving their all. There is no seconds that they are playing that they can, just take a break, take a breather, or not try. We see this in the NBA plenty of times where you'll see a guy just go sit in the corner because he doesn't want to play these next 2 possessions. He just needs a breather. When these guys are on the floor, they're giving it their all, and they're trying to make a name for themselves. They're trying to prove that they can play in the NBA. And so I think from just a energy standpoint and, a goal standpoint, and guys just, having a will out there to go win or just, do something productive for their team, it seems like that means a lot more to them than it maybe does in December of the NBA regular season. But I mean, like you said, there's a lot of star power in the NBA regular season, but we're seeing it now with AJ DeBonsa taking on Darren Peterson. Caleb Wilson, 35 points. He's going absolutely berserk in his debut. So we're seeing the stars that are going to be the future of the NBA. And then we're also seeing guys that are just trying to earn themselves a little bit of, gratitude going into this summer league.
Question on YouTube says, when's Rink Mass play again? Well, you don't have to wait. You don't have to wait very long because he plays at 4:30 Central Time on Prime against the Sixers today. 1-0 versus 1-0. And hey, if you win that game, you got yourself in the driver's seat to potentially put something together. Along with that, you have the Pelicans and the Hornets playing at 3 o'clock. So Josiah Alec potentially making his summer league debut this season as well. You'll have to wait another day for Sam Hoiberg and then the Pistons with Bryce Williams. So I find that very interesting. I remember when the summer league used to just be played in Orlando. It was played in like a practice gym, it felt like. Now it's grown and now it's its own spectacle. And Las Vegas is going to be popping. Not only for that, but also there's a pretty big fight going on there as well tonight. The T-Mobile, arena down there in Las Vegas. Conor McGregor, Max Holloway. We'll talk a little about that one. Then the Lincoln Challenger. I think we have to kind of plug that a little bit going on starting tomorrow with the qualifying rounds leading up until Monday's first round action because we have a tennis show right after. So I feel like we're obligated to talk more tennis when that goes on. So Ray Lico coming up, First Serve Live after us. But we still have one more segment here. Tristan Gomes, Nick Whyman holding it down, 93.7 The Ticket. We'll be right back.
Anderson Ford in Lincoln has 2 convenient locations, which means 2 times the customer service, 2 times the inventory, and 2 times the ability to get you in the car of your dreams. Whether you visit us on the north side or the south side, you'll find more selection and a team that's always on your side. When you're looking for a better way to buy your next Ford, visit Anderson Ford in Lincoln, where exceptional service meets unbeatable selection.
Are you looking for a jump start on your health and fitness this summer? The next Farrell's Extreme Body Shaping 10-week challenge starts July 11th. And right now, ticket listeners can save an incredible $200 off the 10-week challenge. Our proven program combines kickboxing, strength training, nutrition coaching, and accountability to help you lose fat, build strength, and create healthy habits that last. No matter your current fitness level, our coaches will guide you every step of the way. Don't wait until summer is over to start feeling better. Join the Farrell's 10-week challenge starting July 11th and save $200 as a ticket listener. Visit fxblincoln.com today. That's fxblincoln.com. Farrell's Extreme Body Shaping, results you can see and feel.
If one of the things running through your mind as a business owner is the recurring worry of possible cyber attacks, you can let out a sigh of relief. Hamilton Business Technologies has you covered. As the official business IT partner of the Huskers, we offer real-time threat monitoring, advanced security protocols, and more to keep your data safe from harm. We care about the success of Nebraska businesses and communities like yours. Learn how we can help you at hamiltonisbusiness.com.
Want to make the easy call? Call John Henry's. From leaky pipes to a broken AC, flickering lights to furnace fights, even drains and duct cleaning, we've got it handled. Plumbing, heating, air, and electrical, all under one trusted roof. Proudly serving homes across Lincoln, Omaha, and surrounding areas and ready 24/7. Visit calljh.com or call John Henry's.
435-5555. John Henry's Plumbing, Heating and Air,
and Electrical.
Put lawn irrigation on automatic. Think Judson Irrigation for worry-free service to Lincoln homeowners and business community. Judson Irrigation will turn on your sprinkler system in the spring, repair or redesign as needed, and turn it off in the fall. For service to orphan sprinklers, remember Judson Irrigation. They'll never forget you.
Call the Judson Irrigation Orphanage, 402-420-6277, or judsonirrigation.com.
At Schwezo Construction, safety isn't just a policy, it's a promise. Build with us. Work safe, go home proud. We're hiring skilled craftsmen, laborers, concrete workers, and steel erectors who value quality work and a team that has your back, on and off the job site. If you're ready to be part of a company where your safety and success come first, visit schwezo.com. That's SCHWISOW.com and apply today. Schwezo Construction, 40 years strong and still building the future.
Rico here with HIS Auto Care at 70th and Van Dorn, letting you know HIS is a great place to bring your vehicle for service. With superior service bumper to bumper, we'll treat your vehicle like it's your mother's. Doesn't get any better than that. So call 402-488-8934 and HIS Auto will make you glad you did. 5% off, mention this ad, and for sure your mother will be proud you called. 402-488-8934, HIS Auto Care, 70th and Van Doren. God bless you.
Hey there, this is Paul Scheel, owner of High Electric. I want to thank our friends and loyal customers and introduce High Electric to those looking for a new electrician. We've been serving the Lincoln and Omaha area for over 30 years, from design to install, upgrades, and repair. If you are a homeowner or a small business needing some electrical work, call us at 402-466-6606 or check us out at hyelectric.com. We look forward to hearing from you.
Big box stores are tempting for buying equipment for your high schooler in sports or for yourself in your sports leisures. But buying new is awfully expensive. Why not go somewhere with new and used options? Play It Again Sports has quality, slightly to gently used equipment, and 50% of their inventory is actually new equipment. It's more than baseball, softball, and golf. They also have equipment for disc golf, fitness, hockey, and more. Plus, they're always buying products. Bring your gear that you're done with and get trade money on the spot. Play It Again Sports at 48th and Vine. Perch Merch is your one-stop shop for all your printing and promotional needs in Lincoln, Nebraska. They specialize in screen printing, embroidery, vehicle wraps, window wraps, print collateral, promotional products, and signage. At Perch Merch, they're committed to delivering high-quality products and exceptional customer service. Their experienced team of designers and printing professionals will work with you every step of the way to ensure that your vision is realized. Call for a quote today at 402-217-5212 or go to perchmerch.com.
You started your business to build something special. Now it's time to grow and protect it. At Pinnacle Bank, our treasury management services help you do just that. Through smarter payment technology, account administration, and fraud protection. So no matter the size of your business, you can get the most out of your financial operations. Request your free consultation at pinbank.com/consult. Pinnacle Bank, the way banking should be. Member FDIC.
93.7 The Ticket is Lincoln's home for Kansas City Royals baseball in 2026. Catch all the action as Bobby Witt Jr., Salvador Perez, Vinny Pasquantino, and a pitching rotation led by Cole Reagans try to lead the Royals back to the postseason. That's Kansas City Royals baseball all summer long. On the air in Lincoln at 93.7 The Ticket. Back to The Ticket weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back. One more quick segment before we turn things over to First Serve Live with Ray Lee Co. 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Nick Whyman hanging out with you this morning, and then Tristan Gomes coming out of the bullpen here to close out day. A very stacked day. A lot of really cool things going on in here at The Ticket, but also in sports. Tonight in Las Vegas, you have the NBA Summer League, but you also have the return of the notorious one, Conor McGregor. Regardless of how that goes, I think people are going to have their eyeballs on that one. I'm a casual UFC fan, but I will have my eyes on it because I hear Conor McGregor. I'm assuming you're in the same way. You hear that name and you go, okay, I better pay attention.
I mean, yeah, it's two guys that have been doing this for a very long time. And, when you continue to grow in age and you continue to take more and more punches, you're curious how you respond and how these guys are going to duel it out tonight. I hope it's one of those where it's a lot of standing up and not them, getting down. Do you remember watching the Khabib McGregor fight and it was over in like a minute?
I remember Marab versus Sugar Sean O'Malley at the Spear, and it was just Marab just dominated from top to bottom. I know what you're talking about, though, and then those are never fun. When you get a hyped up fight, it ends in a minute.
Ends in a minute, and it's just a guy, gets
plummeled,
taken to the ground, and then you just see a guy who's just there and he just looks like a dead fish and has zero fight whatsoever. But no, I think this is going to be a really exciting one. And yeah, two of the greatest of all time in UFC. And like you said, I'm similar in a casual fan way, but this should be a really exciting one.
Along with that, you have the Lincoln Challenger coming to town, qualifying rounds tomorrow to play into the round of 32. That's starting on Monday at 11 a.m. You'll have your first matches. We'll be out there from 9 to 6 p.m., all the way from the drive, all the way till the end of Old School on Monday. And I'm very excited just because I looked at the player pool. You have two players ranked in the top 100, Elias Abrizi and Adam Walton. After that, you have 10 players ranked in the top 200. And I think, the player pool, the prize money's gone up. Tristan, they had an ATP tour back in the 80s. Mm-hmm. wasn't really as big as it was then. They had it won. That was the origins of this. Then 2024, it was like 82,000 prize pool. Then last year adds on more, and now it's grown each and every year. And I think every single of those tournaments start from there because the Dallas Challenge was what it used to be. Now it's the Dallas Open, and it continues to grow. And if you have an audience for it, another thing I like to point out, you get to see these potential rising stars on this tour, but it's also very affordable, Tristan. If you look at the ticket prices, it's very family friendly. They have different days. Rhea said there's a Pilates day or something like that. There's the 1 point challenge on Saturday, everything in between. First round action starts Monday and Tuesday. Second round, then you obviously have your quarterfinals, semifinals wrapping up on the July 19th with the championship of that one. You have the 2024 champion, Jacob Fernley from the UK, coming in, trying to be the two-time winner of this tournament with Rafael Hodar, who won it in 2025. So I think it's really exciting because tennis is a growing sport, not only in this country, but across the world. And it can grow fans. I think that's what the biggest thing. Like, tennis might not be your forte, but it's going to be nice weather. You can get your tan. It's going to be nice outside. You get to watch some rising up-and-comers and seeing athletes when they're, rising through the ranks. Like, look at baseball. Minor league guys. You go watch a single-A game or a double-A game, and man, I saw insert Bryce Harper before he became Bryce Harper. And then you see him go off to the majors and do his thing. I think that's the same thing that goes applying to this Lincoln Challenger.
Yeah, I think in all sports, it's super cool when we just talked about the NBA Summer League, seeing, the futures of the NBA. And then speaking about futures tomorrow, the MLB has their futures game, which we'll see former Husker Max Anderson, shout out. He's one of my best friends, but just multiple guys that are going to be, the future of Major League Baseball. And then you have the Lincoln Challengers where it's the same exact thing, where we're going to see just athletes that, we may not know about now, but now we get the opportunity to see them. And in a few years, we're going to be seeing them on the biggest stages.
Not even a few years. Rafael Hodar was in the quarterfinals of Roland Garros and is top ranked in the top 30 less than a year before the Lincoln Challenger. So it doesn't take much time to rise to the occasion and step up. So to see the beginning of all that, some quality players, not only from the United States, who have backgrounds playing in the SEC Conference, Ellis Abrizi, and a couple others, then watching the guys from Great Britain, Australia, one of the top players from China coming over too. And I find that very interesting with this sport continuing to grow. And it should be a fun time out there. We'll be out there as Mender remotes, everything from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Monday. If you come on down, come say hi. We'll have some social media covers. Spoiler alert, Ray Lee Coe, who's coming up next, will be tag teaming with me, covering some of the matches. We'll get some interviews and some stand-ups down there from the Lincoln Challenger on Monday, and maybe more on throughout the rest of the week. So that is all we have for this hour of Ticket Weekends. Myself and Tristan Gomes come up next. I see a very tall tennis player out there, so I have a feeling Ray Lee Coe has a guest on the horizon here for a show. So Tristan, I'll let you take over in my seat. It's pretty warm. Been sitting here for a while, so warm the seat for you, just like warm up out of the bullpen. So Ray Lee Coe, First Serve Live, come up next. 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.